Hey guys, Tom Ruti here. So this is 21 to 21, day 20. Can you believe it? We're finally there. 2 days until my 21st birthday. And it's actually, if you can't notice, it's actually pretty stormy outside. So I'm kind of stuck in here. And I thought I would do kind of a little follow up to something that I did a couple of days ago. For the record, I'm looking myself in the camera right now. I'm sorry that, I look all hairy. I haven't shaved or had my hair cut in a while. So yeah, I'd still with that. Anyways, for this video, I thought I'd follow up something like I said. I'd follow up something I did a couple days ago. I did something about George Harrison about a week ago when Conan O'Brien was doing a week-long tribute to him, and I went through some of his albums and gave like my own like initial quick thoughts about them. And I thought I'd do the same thing for a different Beatle, Paul McCartney, since I'm seeing him tomorrow in concert in, and I'm really excited. Like I have been thinking about this concert for the last few days, and the more I think about it, the more exciting it is, and the more excited that I get. So, but more about that when it actually happens. But what I thought I'd do is for anybody who knows of Paul's solo career, and there's probably a few people out there who do, they know mainly his records from the 70s and 80s, but I thought I'd touch on a few of the albums that he did in the last 14, 15 years, everything from 2000 onwards, because he's made some really great albums that some people have heard, some people haven't. So I thought I'd give my quick impressions on those. Now, I should preface by saying there's only maybe about 6 or 7, and I don't have all of them, of course. So some of them you're going to have to use your imaginations to see what they look like. So we'll start this one off with the 2001 or 2002 album, the first album of the new millennium, which is this one, Driving Rain. Little pixelated gray cover there. You'll notice on the back there's no track listing, just a bunch of pictures with numbers. If you open it up, which I hope we can do on camera, there are 15 tracks listed, but there are actually 16 tracks on the CD. 16th track being a song called Freedom, which he wrote in response to the attacks on the World Trade Center on September 11th. And, well, initial thoughts. It's not a great record by any means. It has a few good songs on here. My big problem with the album, and probably a few other people would have the same problem with it, it's too long. Just because it's one of his first albums, I believe one of his first albums on the CD, but I could be terribly wrong, and I probably am. Probably should have done some research first. Is that now that you have a CD and you can stretch to 80 minutes, doesn't mean you have to take up all 80 minutes. But here, it seems like he does. Some of the songs go a little too long. If he had trimmed them by a minute or so, I think I probably would have liked them a bit better instead of thinking, oh my god, how long is this going to go on for? To me, some of the standout tracks that I like, let me see here. From a Lover to a Friend has a nice chorus. I can't really say much about the whole song in general. The title track, Driving Rain, is not that great, which is kind of disappointing that the album itself is called Driving Rain, so you can't help but think of the title track, which is not a good song, so you tend to get a bad feeling about this album immediately once you mention the title. Your Way is a nice track. Heather's a nice track. It's almost he could have made it an instrumental, but there's like a little bit of lyrics at the very end. I kind of like Your Loving Flame. I know some McCartney fans online aren't that thrilled with it. And some of the other ones are okay. So, is it essential? I'd probably put it somewhere at the bottom, but it's got a few good tracks. If you isolate a few tracks, I can really love them. And maybe if this album was, I don't know, maybe 12 tracks instead of 15, I'd probably like it a bit better. But honestly, I have to give this one more of a listen, because the ones I'm going to mention now are better ones, in my opinion, and so I tend to listen to them more. So after Driving Rain, he follows it up with 2005's Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. Oops, I got a little crack in the cover there. I've had this since my birthday in 2005. It came out around that time, and I listened to this non-stop. I actually have, see if I can put it in. I actually have the special edition with the slipcase, and the special edition also comes with a DVD, quick documentary about the album, and some animated stuff. And there's a download card in here for a bonus track that I've actually never used. I've heard the track, but I've never downloaded it myself. That's just kind of weird, I guess. This was a really great album, and it still is a great album because at the time, Paul, I should say, by the time Driving Rain came out, he was remarried to his second wife, Heather. In fact, there's a track on here called Heather. And by this album, Chaos and Creation in the Backyard, he wasn't divorced quite yet, but he was having some bit of issues there. Like I think of one track in particular, "Riding to Vanity Fair." Is if you really look at the lyrics, you can definitely tell it's an angry song to somebody, and I have a feeling that's who he was angry at. And this one is a really nice balance between classic McCartney pop, Fine Line, English Tea, Too Much Rain, and then you have some really introspective songs from Paul. Things like Jenny Wren, which is very mysterious. This Never Happened Before, which is a really beautiful love song, used in the film The Lake House. I never saw it, but that helped it get some popularity. So this album has a really, really nice balance between classic McCartney and some really great McCartney lyrics. I have seen this album at a few friends' parents' house, so I've been quite pleased with it because part of me thinks they're buying it, of course, because it's Paul and they want to hear the classic Paul they know from the 70s and 80s. And this album does have a bunch of those tracks. And it's got some really great introspective songs as well. I would really recommend this. It's a very strong, very mature album. That's the word that I had to describe. It's very mature. It's not, it's not some of the lazy lyrics he does maybe on this album. The lyrics on here, while there may be a few bad lyrics or a bad line, you can pretty much ignore them on this album. I would really recommend this one. And then the next one that I have is 2007. I bought this one the day that it came out at a Starbucks. I was, racing to get it, which is this one, Memory Almost Full. Now, of course, this is the standard version. This is the 2-disc deluxe package. There's like 3 different packages of this. There's the standard version, there's this thick version, and then there's another 2-disc version, which is sort of like a pink version of this cover, but in a standard CD size, and it has a CD and a DVD. I think the DVD has a bunch of music videos and other performances, while this version here, disc 1 is the regular album, which I've heard for years and years, and disc 2 are some 4 bonus tracks, one of them being a full 22-minute audio documentary about Paul talking about the songs, which is very good to listen to. I can't really open up on camera without, making it really awkward. But this one was very much a really nice follow-up to. Sorry, I'm trying to close the CD. I accidentally opened it up while on camera. This is embarrassing. This was the one this was an excellent follow-up to Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. A lot of really great introspective lyrics on here. Classic McCartney also with a couple tracks, Dance Tonight and Ever Present Past. And then you have some like Only Mama Knows, which is a great, great rocker. You almost wouldn't even think that Paul was 70 or how old he was when this album came out. He sounds incredible. Mr. Bellamy is a great story. And then there's a medley of 5 songs on here that all flow in together really nicely, kind of like Abbey Road, the Beatles' last album. He did that on here. And some of the songs he uses, like Vintage Clothes, That Was Me, Feet in the Clouds, they all deal with older, not how he was when he was younger, so older thoughts, but they're really great lyrics on here. This one in Chaos and Creation might kind of just be like a volume 1 and volume 2, but Chaos and Creation being slightly better in my opinion, not a lot, but slightly better, just because it was volume 1. It's more fresh, and this one, Memory Most Full, which is again really great. I don't hate it by any means, but it's a really great companion to Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. Except this one has a medley, and Chaos and Creation doesn't. And then the last one that I actually have a physical copy of right now is released from 2009, which is not strictly a Paul McCartney album. I'll explain that. It's called Electric Arguments, and it's by the artist that's listed is The Fireman. This is a used copy, so it might be a bit beat up. But The Fireman is Paul McCartney, and he did a lot of promotion for this. He was on The View. Terrible interview, but it was one of the places that he went to promote this. And what's really nice about this, it shows Paul getting his freak on. Ugh. No, what I mean by that is Paul's willing to experiment and try wacky sounds and different instruments or different song styles, chord progressions, and he can hide it because he's not calling himself Paul McCartney on this album. It's the Fireman, which is sort of an alias that he goes under to create these wacky things. Kind of like if anybody's familiar with David Bowie, how he creates Ziggy Stardust as a character that's not really him, but when he's in that mindset, he can be totally wacky because it's not him, it's Ziggy Stardust. Well, that's the same thing with this. Paul can be wacky because he's not Paul on this album. He's the Fireman. And this it's also kind of a distorted album, which you don't get from Paul, which is why I think one of the things that's really nice about it is that there are tons of tracks on here that you could take off and make them into McCartney tracks. If you like put them in iTunes and you label these as Paul, people would probably be fooled into thinking that it actually was Paul and not some weird guy called the Fireman. Like, I think of songs like Sing the Changes, Highway, which he performed those two live. Those were great. Let's see. Two Magpies, which is a great classic McCartney tune. A lot of great songs on here. A lot of them you may be a little, that a casual listener may, withdraw from because they're not, classic McCartney. Well, like, again, you have to defend those a bit because they're not really Paul on this. But I would recommend this one to anybody who's curious to see Paul branch out from classic things for a whole album. Maybe one or two tracks on here are classic McCartney, but this is a great listen for anybody who wants to see what else Paul can do. And speaking of what else Paul can do, that brings me to the albums I don't have, but still belong in that category. 2012, he releases an album called Kisses on the Bottom. Yeah, that's the title. I'm not quite sure why. I mean, it's a lyric from one of the songs. The album is 12 songs, 14 for the deluxe edition, and two of them in the standard are written by Paul. 3 of them in the deluxe version are written by Paul. The rest are all covers of early jazz, big band, soft songs from the 40s and 50s. If anybody's familiar with these like song titles, Bye Bye Blackbird, no relation to his song Blackbird. I'm going to sit right down and write myself a letter. My very good friend the Milkman, and some really great covers on that. And of course, Paul does a beautiful, beautiful original composition called My Valentine. He was about to remarry for the third time. Well, marry for the third time, remarry the second time. Excuse me. And it's a really nice track. He performed that one live. In fact, I'm kind of hoping he performs that one live tomorrow when I go see him because it's a really beautiful track. It could be a standard if you fooled somebody and said it wasn't written by Paul. That's probably my favorite song on that album. The rest of the album has some really choice covers, but is it a McCartney album? Yes and no. It's not Paul the songwriter, of course, but it's a nice addition. You can tell he really loves these songs and he would love to do a standards album. So I think it's a nice addition to the catalog. I wouldn't put it anywhere in the essentials just yet. I'd say to everybody, familiarize yourself with Paul, the songwriter, in his own right, and then to see where he came from, check out that album, Kisses on the Bottom. And then that brings me to the other two that I don't have. One I actually do have, but I just gave it to a friend to study up for tomorrow's concert, is his new album, New. Yeah, that's again, these strange titles. That was released last year, October, I think it was on my birthday actually, October 14th or 15th of last year, 2013. And again, it falls with the Chaos and Creation and Memory Almost Full, where it almost could be a volume 3, but since it's been so long since either of those two, it really stands up as an independent record. Paul is remarried. He has a new inspiration. A lot of the songs are very, very good lyrically because he has a muse to feed off of. And a lot of the songs are thoughts of a new man at that age, however old he was when he made that album. And, And it's an excellent album. I would recommend it to anybody for, I had to look out the window for some reason. I would recommend that album for anybody who wants to see what Paul is up to. Obviously, because it's his new album, but also because if you want to see that Paul still can make an excellent album. And of course, like I said, I'm biased because I love Paul's solo catalog. But a lot of things on that album really make you think, and a lot of things on that album are really excellent. I'm working on the podcast episode for that album. We did a review for it on Triple Threat, so I'm not going to give too much away here, but I'm going to say nothing but positive things in that episode. Though I might be leaving one or two negative comments here and there. And then the final thing that I should talk about, because this video is going way really long here, is his live album, which is called Good Evening New York City, which came out after the Electric Arguments. That was the tour of 2009. I saw him on that tour when he came here, and it's a good live album. It's a standard live album, you know, song, applause, song, applause, song, applause. Nothing really dynamically striking about it. I will say there's a couple of highlights on it. At the end of Let Me Roll It, he does a version of Foxy Lady. Not the whole song, just the main riff, which he's done for years and years, but this is one of the few places there's an actual recorded version. I saw her standing there. He brings Billy Joel on stage to sing with him, although you couldn't tell from the audio until Billy starts singing it. On the DVD, it's a lot more obvious. And then a couple of other great tracks that you would expect: I'm Down, Day Tripper, Day in the Life, Give Peace a Chance, and of course a couple songs from The Fireman, which there was a great review that I read. I think it was Entertainment Weekly. They said something like, the live album produces such a great and positive energy that you'll be cheering for that Fireman track that you never heard. So I thought that was a really great representation of that. So I think that's about everything. And the Cowboys just scored downstairs because my family is cheering, so I definitely got to wrap this up. So anyway, check those albums, guys. Again, they were Driving Rain, Chaos and Creation in the Backyard, Memory Almost Full, Electric Arguments, Kisses on the Bottom, and New. And I might have left something out in there, but I really don't know, and frankly, I really don't care. So definitely check those albums out if you're a fan of Paul's or you want to hear that Paul can still make great music. And I'm hoping that a lot of songs from these new albums get played tomorrow when I go see him. So like I said, when that concert happens, I'll talk more about that. We might even do a review of that concert for one of our podcast episodes. So stay tuned. So, plugs. You can follow me on Twitter at It's Only Tom. There's an underscore in between each word, and there's no apostrophe. You can follow me on Vine, a link in the description for that, and my podcast that I talk about from time to time. Put a link to our main website, where you can download the episodes, and our YouTube channel. So more stuff to come for that, so check those out also. So, guys, this is really exciting knowing that these next few days are going to be awesome. The concert, my birthday, and a bunch of other fun things to look forward to. So thank you guys for watching, and I will see you tomorrow on a brand new vlog on 21 to 21. Thanks guys for watching.